Hello from Britain. I'm sure if you've been watching the news recently, you'll know that there's only one question that everyone wants answered, and that is, am I in or out? Let me just have a quick look. Oh, I'm out. Must have just popped out. Let me put that away. Oh, I got a little bit of nut there. Oh, bloody hell, I should have left it out.
It's alive! Show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Hello and welcome to Empire of Geek. I was just warming up then before I spoke because I've not done it for like a month. It's a little bit scary coming back into it. I've been busy doing other shit. So I'm back again now with my guest hosts who are Rick. Welcome back, Rick.
Thank you.
Good. And Rob, how are you? Raoul. Raoul, Rob. Everyone knows you call Rob.
It's Raoul.
How are you?
Fine, my friend.
So what have you... And also got Lisa, who don't want to be on the show, but she's in the room. But you are here. You've been recognised. So what have you been doing then, Rick? And Dash, the Labrador, who's going to fucking stink us all out at some point. So, Rick, what have you been doing this week?
This week, not a great deal. Visiting family, friends, all the usual shiz that comes with normal, boring life.
Impregnating lesbians?
No, not this week.
Oh, right.
Is that the previous week? Well, anything in the last 3 weeks since we last recorded, yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
So if you're a first-time listener to the podcast, we do about geeky stuff, which a lot of podcasts do, but we try and have a focus as much as possible on English stuff. But if you've never listened before, you'll not realise that, Rick, this is your third time on the show, is it?
Third or fourth? Yes.
And your part-time job is you're a stud, aren't you? You literally go around getting women pregnant.
I try to help.
And you're 2 for 2 at the moment, aren't you?
No, I possibly 2 out of 5 or 6.
That's not bad odds, though, isn't it?
Yeah, not too bad. The 2 for 2 were first times. So.
Crikey, you've got some pretty concentrated mix in those nut sacks of yours.
Because I was speaking to somebody last night about that and comparing our seminal analysis results, and I seem to have had...
Typical conversation.
What? You're bringing that up on the podcast?
Well, sure. Why not?
So your numbers were high?
Well, double the other person's, so I'm quite proud of that.
So, Rob, what do you reckon? Raoul, do you think you've got a higher seminal count than Rick?
No.
Do you not fancy going up against the King of Spunk?
I'd rather not. Apparently, in order to get a high count, you've got to eat stuff and do a lot of stuff, and I can't be bothered with any of it.
Really? Do you actually...
Don't smoke and don't drink.
You don't. Well, you don't smoke. You drink a shitload, though, don't you?
I can, on occasion, drink a shitload. Yes.
Yeah, Western lifestyles with lots of alcohol's not good for sperm count.
Oh, blimey. Oh, I don't drink, do I? I don't smoke. That explains why I'm a father of one at the moment. Raoul, you've not managed to force a lady to carry your seed to term. What have you been up to for these last few months or month?
Just trying to sort my life out, really.
And how's that gone? Has it gone well?
Limited success. I had a job for one day that paid me a shit ton of money, proper mega amount of money, but the contract prevented me from doing something else, so I had to say goodbye, and now I'm poor again.
Principled?
Not principled, just didn't want to get sued.
Oh yeah, well. And Lisa, how have you been? Fine. Good, okay then, we'll move along. Right, okie dokie then. So just a reminder for anyone, if you are a repeated listener, or even a first time one, we're going to be making an appearance at the Yorkshire Geek Fest. We're going to have a stand there, we'll be selling some shit. And I've just been building a little set for us to have behind us. Because some Comic Cons, you see, because I'm selling my comic book, Midnight Butterfly, available on Amazon, look it up. Some people will get like a little pop-up stand showing their name, so I'd have like Empire Geek if I was doing it that way, and then a picture of their work. But I thought, why not make something? Because I'm quite crafty. So today I've just been starting on building the mini set we'll have behind us. I don't think anyone else does this at Comic-Cons that I know of anyway. So it could either be the best thing in the world or look absolutely shit. So...
Well, you might as well take as many comics as you can with you, because if you look like the best thing there, then you're going to get a lot of visitors.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that it will draw people in. But if we do look terrible, well, you said you live and learn, don't you? That's like, I want it to have the main character from my comic book kind of there, and I want all these cogs and stuff behind us. But I've been raiding skips and stuff for cardboard, so over the next 2 weeks I'll be building it, and I've actually started filming it as well. So I'm going to put together a little film to show people what I'm making. Again, to build the hype, because that's what it's all about. Anyway, let's crack on with the actual show instead of me talking about myself. So the first thing we're going to talk about is last week a new teaser trailer came out for HBO's Westworld, which is going to be a TV show which has been worked on by J.J. Abrams and Jonathan Nolan, and is going to star Anthony Hopkins, Ed Harris, James Marsden, and more. Some big names in that one. And it's going to be out in October of this year. And the new trailer, I thought, looked very good. Rick, what did you think?
Considering I'd never heard of it before, the trailer definitely promises something that I think that I'll get into and enjoy.
The tits and ass?
As I was about to go on, the whole idea about AI and robotics and how that interplay is going to occur over the coming years.
Don't make out you're in it for the science, you liar.
We didn't see a lot of tits and ass in the trailer, so
yeah, that's a fair amount. I mean,
quite like the look.
Raoul is pinning it on it. That's the first thing you said.
It's from HBO, so yeah, you're gonna get a lot of that stuff in it, but you don't really watch Game of Thrones just for the tits and ass.
Raoul? Sexposition, that's what Game of Thrones is.
I watch it for the story, so...
Well, I watch it for the story too, but the boob count is an added bonus.
But I remember you saying to me once, Raoul, about you actually quite like the whole idea that a lot of the storyline is told through sex scenes, and it's something that you've said to me before, because you're quite a creative person. You wanted to put into that one-man show that you did, so... But apparently 3 hours of you just wanking on a stage just did not sell tickets, did it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, I think it's going to be really good. What did you think to it before I got on with it?
Well, the concept, that sounds a bit like too pretentious.
You know what HBO stands for, don't you?
Home box office.
No. Huge boobs, onanism. That's what it stands for.
Really? Oh, right. I honestly think it will be good. I think because it is this whole virtual world, there's plenty of scope for all kinds of things to happen.
Have you seen the original film?
No, I haven't seen the original film, so I can't really make any reference to that. But going back to what Rick was saying about VR, when I was a bit of a knob then. Lots of stuff's happening with VR now. It's a topical conversation, and there are already places opening up around the world where they're physical. If you were to go into them, they're physical worlds with shapes and textures. You wear the VR gear.
I've seen that. It's kick-ass, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can actually wear the VR gear, and the world is mapped on the VR gear, but because you've got these physical things that you're physically walking around with, like, you walk into the room and it just look like white plasterboard, but that lump in the middle you suddenly touch, and in the VR thing it's a tree, and it feels like you're. We
did about this on a previous show, didn't we? Where we there's
a place in Birmingham, isn't there? They're doing, yeah. So I think yeah. I mean, it'll be quite an interesting thing to see. See how they extrapolate and see where it goes, and blending the whole idea of what's real and what isn't real, and because it looks like from this that they actually have. It's not just VR. They've got clones or animatronics or something.
The original film. What happened in the original film with Yul Brynner in was Westworld was part of a theme park for really rich people.
Yeah.
And you had like Westworld, Medieval World, and I can't remember what the other one was called. A bit like the Crystal Maze, but without less running around and
no Richard O'Brien.
And so they pay to go in there, and you can live out your dreams, no matter how sordid. If you want to be a gunslinger in Westworld, you can go and fight the big bad guy. And Yul Brynner was the bad guy in the black hat.
And you would win if you
Yeah.
would fight. Yeah. So you could basically, if you were like it kind of almost like Dexter was a serial killer, but a good kind of serial killer, insofar as it was identified that he had this urge, and so it was targeted at bad people, murderers. Likewise with this, if you are like a particularly nasty, vile person, you've got.
Well, the thing is, you don't actually have to be good. You could go in there and just be a massive rapist, murderer. It's made if you're rich.
Yeah, no, that's the point I'm trying to make. You could live out your fantasies without actually being, really harming someone.
So in the original film, you had Yul Brynner's black cowboy dude kind of hunting down the good guy. In this one, Ed Harris seems to play that character, but it looks to me like the androids who play the other parts of the people who populate Westworld probably seem to be maybe remembering some aspects of the violent murders and the scalpings and the rapings that have befell them, and possibly that is going to come into it. So it could be quite interesting when this new form of life, whatever, that they accidentally create through Westworld, they start to realise what's going on. And
so what, they have like a past life, but they're not alive?
I'm only guessing what's going to happen. Because J.J. Abrams is in it and Jonathan Nolan,
it's going to be
they like to play around
yeah.
with storylines, and I think it could be quite cool to see what goes on. And the notion of there's a bit in the trailer where Ed Harris says, well, Anthony Hopkins says to him, what's your goal? And he goes, I want to meet my maker. Because obviously Anthony Hopkins is I'm guessing the guy who made him. That'll be quite interesting.
I think it will be interesting to see where, because there are many computer scientists that believe in the singularity, whereby a computer becomes or a robot becomes so advanced, so intelligent that they are able to effectively have free will. Now there are many that don't believe that will happen at all, but
Isn't that Rick?
what do you think a computer will have free will eventually?
I mean, does Rick have free will?
Oh, does Rick have free will?
I know he wasn't programmed to have it, but he got struck by lightning, and now he's just like a real boy.
But his nose doesn't grow.
No.
Does, just very slowly
Yes.
over time.
He never lies. That's why everyone hates him. Do I look good in this? No, you don't. Right, the next thing we're going to talk about quite quickly is, were you ever a fan of Red Dwarf?
Loved it.
Do you like it, Rick?
Yeah, I did in the past. I've not gone back to it any time.
I've only just started watching it again because we've got Netflix and they've got it all on there. I was a huge fan of Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf was proper cool, wasn't it, when we were...
Oh yeah, and also as well, because we were, Red Dwarf was shown after The Watershed, there was an element of, I got to watch Red Dwarf.
A bit naughty. Well,
a bit naughty, yeah.
It moved to the Dave network, and the Dave channel, if you're not in Great Britain, normally shows repeats of popular kind of comedy shows, doesn't it? But they've actually making their own episodes now, because they did one called Red Dwarf Back to Earth or something, and it was their most popular show ever.
I can't remember what channel. What was Red Dwarf originally on? It was BBC, wasn't it?
I think it's on BBC. Was it BBC?
Two.
Yeah, BBC Two.
Originally, yeah. So Dave is actually owned by BBC. That's why it shows a lot of old BBC, and reruns and repeats, and it's effectively a commercial arm because there's much debate as to what's going to happen with the licence fee and other things. So it's out there trying to make as much money as it can. So that makes sense. It's obviously going to have the licences. But
I think it's the only actual show I think that I know of at the moment that they actually make like that. I think they might actually do a chat show or something. I'm not sure.
They do one other.
It's a quiz show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dave, for the people that don't know about it, being renowned for repeatedly repeating repeats.
Over
to the
and
point
over again.
That in some comedy shows, is it Mock the Week?
Yeah.
There was that point where somebody says, oh, and this is going to be shown on Dave, ad infinitum, and then it was shown on Dave, as an advert for the repeats of that show. So
Yeah, it's good that they're making their own shows though, and Red Dwarf pulls in about 1 million viewers, which is for Dave massively huge.
Huge, yeah.
So they've already filmed this. They started last year, and they filmed season 11 last year in October, and they started filming season 12 in January of this year, and it's all done now. So they're going to be showing later this year. I think around about October later this year.
How old? Because I mean, the cast were in their mid to late 20s when the original was filmed. So.
Oh yeah, they're all kind of cracking on, but they've all weathered reasonably well.
Yeah, well, I mean, Crichton's obviously got the benefit of makeup. Cat.
They all turn into Crichton apparently in one of the new episodes. That's what I've heard. They all turn into androids, so you're going to get like a Crichton version of Lister and Rimmer.
When's this scheduled to go live?
I think I'm pretty sure they said later this year, and I think October.
Because the last season was incredibly well received.
Oh yeah, they've done really well, which is why they're making it. Otherwise, it's a big risk for someone like Dave. I don't imagine their budget is huge.
Well, no, they've got the point is they've got bugger all budget because their purpose is to show repeats, and effectively, Dave is probably just some bloke doing scheduling, and that's it.
Just is a bloke called Dave.
Just a bloke called Dave doing scheduling, yeah.
They've also filmed these 2 new seasons in front of a live studio audience like they used to do.
Brilliant.
So I remember they stopped doing that and it lost a lot of the actual...
Well, the problem was they added the canned laughter, and it meant as well that with the canned laughter, the timing and the interaction with the audience was lost because they would pause, to let the audience finish. Whereas you don't get that with canned.
Yeah. I hated it when I fucking hate canned laughter. It ruins stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Are you looking forward to that, Rick?
sounds good to me.
Yeah, it should be. The cat is also going to get a girlfriend in this one.
About bloody time, after how many millions of years?
Well, the idea is that he's so vain that he's in love with himself. So this idea of this incredibly kind of self-absorbed, vain creature getting a girlfriend is quite funny. And he's got a girlfriend as well, hasn't he? So,
which is why he's not here tonight.
It's because he's ignoring my fucking messages, that's why. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about was I don't read The Spectator, but I occasionally look up any stories to do with graphic novels and comic books. And I saw a headline by a chap called James Dellingpole, and he is supposedly the best blogger ever of 2013 or 2012. He won an award.
He's a blogger.
Well,
that's not a proper job, is it?
He's not just... Well, he's also a reporter. He writes for The Spectator as well.
Yeah.
So he wrote this article called "Graphic Novels Are Produced by Sad Blokes Stuck in Arrested Adolescence," which...
How would you like to respond to that, Steve?
He's a fucking dick. Well, since we talk about comic books... So I looked at it, the title of it, and I thought, what a fucking prick. And then I read some more, and he one of the statements he makes is that sometimes... He says, sometimes I wonder whether of all the literary genres, graphic novels aren't the most stupidly overrated. And he goes on to say, liken it to The Emperor's New Clothes, with a lot of recent comic books being visually and literally incomprehensible, and also that when it was a small thing, a cult that not many people were into, it was okay. But now we end up with comic books being produced by these sad blokes stuck in Arrested Development with dodgy left-wing politics to match, who are too petulant and self-regarded to follow the conventions of naturalistic storytelling. And it's all a load of depressive wank, is what he says.
So he said dodgy left-wing politics. You should send him your book.
He won't fucking like it.
But it's not left-wing politics, your book.
That is true. You know, also, I looked up about him, and it's funny, really, that... Because I got a feeling that he probably did read comic books once when he was a kid. I don't think he's read any lately. I think he may have looked briefly at some, because some of the comments he makes sound like someone who's talking about something but never really watched it. And so I did a little bit of research on him, and he denies global warming is being caused by humans, or that we've added to it. And he's quite often been debated on this by people, by scientists, and they'll say to him, well, we can see the evidence of the impact we've had on it. And he'll go, oh, no, I don't believe in any of that. And they'll say, what studies are you using to back you up? And he's, I don't read any studies. I just kind of get the feeling that it is.
So he's one of these correlation. I'm going to infer a cause from that. It's like saying, like, Emma's got a PhD, my sister's got a PhD. Both of them didn't crawl when they were kids. Therefore, don't crawl. You get a PhD.
He also likened, I think it was people who were. I think he likened green people, eco people, to paedophiles, and called the people from London Zoo a bunch of terrorists. I think that was one of the things he said. Don't quote me on that.
Why?
But he's a reactionary twat, isn't he?
Well, why are we even bothering giving the slot on the podcast?
But actually, he did make quite a good point at the end of it. In that,
Okay.
And I read all of it, and it began with me thinking, you twat. Which I think he is probably quite popular because he is very clickbaity.
A bit like Richard Littlejohn's a bit clickbaity.
Yeah, but I like Richard Littlejohn. He's cool. He talks about how he's probably an old fuddy-duddy, and he believes that the greatest literature is produced of its characters' limitations, which I agree with him with regard to superheroes. He's on about the fact that you need heroes who are not superpowered, who have failings, to draw you in to read them. And I would completely agree with that, and that's the big problem with Superman. However...
Well, Superman's boring, though, and we all think that.
Stuff like Constantine, Hellblazer, he has massively failed. He's powerful, but he's a selfish, cowardly shithouse.
You can even look at, like, Preacher.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because he was talking... I think he'd watched some episodes of the TV version of Preacher.
Right.
And he's actually slagging that off. Because the idea that Jesse, the main character, has the power of the voice of, like, God in him. He says that, that's ridiculous, because surely he's all-powerful then. But I don't think he gets it. He's trying to run away from that.
But he doesn't realise that actually it isn't, unless, well, spoiler alert, it isn't actually the voice of God.
Well, no, but I think it's the fact that he has that power. That's what he's...
Well, yeah, he has that power, but, he doesn't, it isn't actually the voice of God, and that the power always backfires in some way.
Well, because people will do literally what he tells them to do.
Yeah.
He tells a guy to go and screw himself, doesn't he?
Yeah,
and the guy rips his own penis off and shoves it up his own arse. And there's lots of cool characters in that as well, like, is it Cassidy? Is it Cassidy?
The vampire.
Yeah, he's an arsehole, isn't he?
Oh, total arsehole, yeah. Yeah.
And Tulip, his girlfriend, I haven't read it for years now. I read it.
Well, yeah, Tulip's kind of
she's
like...
She's a hit woman, though, isn't she?
She's like the devil that sits on her shoulder.
Yeah, I liked it, but yeah, he actually wrote this because of Preacher. Have you seen the Preacher TV series?
I've seen the pilot. It looked promising. I need to watch it.
I've not watched it yet. I'm quite keen to.
It's on Amazon Prime.
You haven't got that. It's Netflix. What shall I do? Yeah, we need to get that and review it. But yeah, I actually agreed with the end bit of it. He talks us about... He likes stuff to tell us about the nature of life, and he says that stuff like X-Men doesn't do that. Which I'd argue, again, maybe X-Men now doesn't. When X-Men first came out, it was all about civil rights. Because you've got people who are different being treated as kind of second-class citizens. So I wanted to include it because I think he makes a good point at the end. I don't think he needed to slag off makers of comic books, though, to do that.
Well,
dick.
He just wanted the airtime, didn't he? Clearly he needs to be on our podcast.
Yeah, obviously.
I
think he is quite popular. I think he has quite a few listeners or readers. Right, you were talking about earlier about VR being quite a big thing at the moment. This actually is a news story that came out today, because we always talk about the jumps ahead with robotics and how it's all obviously leading towards us being killed by robots and then becoming our masters. This story today, which came out literally today, is this not the scariest thing ever? They are developing, a bloke called Professor Lee Cronin at Glasgow University is working with BAE Systems to develop drones that can grow themselves in like a chemputer, as he calls it.
So,
it will
like a crab grows a shell.
I think the whole thing can be grown. Like it'll grow an aircraft over like a year.
What, the circuitry?
I have no idea.
It won't be a living thing though, surely. It'll.
At the moment, it won't be a living thing.
But it'll just be like growing like you grow a plant, the plant dies, it's still a plant. It doesn't need, or it would effectively fossilise, or would it be plastic, or? It says while a 3D printer physically makes the parts from the machine, the computer speeds up the chemical reactions from the molecular level. So what does that mean? Does it literally grow like a wing, like it is a limb, or?
There's some pictures that they put out which basically showed some guys walking around. This isn't what it is yet, but the plan is these big vats, and in these vats were these large drones growing. Imagine that as soon as Skynet comes online, we're screwed up, because you think you can kill all the machines. It's hatching a load more machines to come and kill us.
Well, it's really, really quite. That breaks the law of robotics, doesn't it? What's the first law of robotics, that they won't kill us or something?
Try switching it off and back on again.
I can't remember what the laws were that Asimov came up with. I know what.
But one of them is that the robot shouldn't be able to kill us.
Oh yeah.
Or cause us harm.
Yeah, and it depends. People have come up with different ones.
And it can't kill itself unless it interferes with the first law or something.
Yeah.
Florian was here. He knows the three. Is it 3 rules, isn't it?
Because the Teslas, which are technically robotic in the sense that they are, the new Tesla cars have awareness of their surroundings.
Is it one of them that crashed?
Yeah, it crashed recently.
He was watching Harry Potter, wasn't he, or something? That's what it said on the news today.
What? He was watching Harry Potter all the time?
I've not read the article, but apparently Harry Potter was on. One of the Harry Potter movies was on. Potentially.
You can blame Harry Potter for another. No, with regards to the weight. So with the Teslas at the moment, they will self-drive, but you have to have your hand on the wheel at all times, so that if it is behaving in a way that you do not want it to, you can take action to override it. And apparently, what happened here was it was driving. It was photographing the road. It was the right distance from the vehicle in front, but the vehicle in front was coloured in such a way that the...
No, what happened was that a lorry pulled across a junction in front of the car that was white, and the sensors, because it was a bright day and the sun was low in the sky, I think it was...
Right, it cancelled out the...
It couldn't actually see it. It lost, the outline of the vehicle, so it just carried on straight through the vehicle, even though there was obviously something in the way there. So
there is a response on behalf of on the driver. Would the driver have had sufficient time to have slowed down, or?
Well, if the driver could see it, then yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
He might have been watching
Harry Potter, yeah.
This is part of the failing on Tesla's behalf, in that they're using cheap optical sensors instead of also using something like LiDAR, which the likes of Google and Ford are using for their autonomous vehicles.
What's LiDAR?
Low something. It's a type of radar, and it's like a low frequency one that can map the surroundings, not visually, but by
like a weird
kind of like
sonar
echolocation type thing. Yeah, same kind of thing as radar and all the rest of it.
So
obviously they need line of sight though, as well, so they can't see through a corner of the building. So the cars tend to edge out of junctions until they can see enough of the adjoining junction.
So the Teslas are purely optical.
Yeah, a few other manufacturers are going purely down the optical route, and the problem is in poor lighting conditions they do struggle with.
Well, I would argue that you need both. You wouldn't want one or the other.
Yeah,
you want both.
Yeah. So a lot of the other manufacturers, I think Ford did a demonstration where they drove across the desert at night with no lights on.
Right.
Purely on LiDAR, I think. And yeah, they were fine. They had no issues.
But again, that would also make sense, I think, environmentally, because if you could get away with not having to have street lamps because in order for optical to work, effectively you have to have lights in the car and perhaps lights on the motorways as well, in order to light the road sufficiently at night. So if you were to get rid of, if you wanted to get, rid of that extra lighting, which obviously costs more money, just put, be like a bat. Put the LiDAR on.
Yeah, well, it's a new field. It's still being developed. It's not really going to be widespread until probably the mid-20s. So.
Which makes the question: if it is that new, why are they allowing it on in a consumer product already?
Tesla obviously. You still need covering by insurance, and their way of getting around to that is the driver's in ultimate control.
Hence, you have to have your hands on the wheel while it...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Google haven't had any accidents where their vehicles have been at fault, although they're only travelling at 25 miles an hour in a urban, suburban environment. American suburban environment, they don't have to deal with roundabouts.
So soon we'll have
they have
special radar seeing hatched drone killer bats chasing us all down. So everything's leading towards it. Do you not see? Everything's leading towards the robots having superpowers, and now actually being born. While this is very interesting, the original story we're talking about, the actual growing and birthing of these drones, how terrifying is that?
But it does. It's like
I like the idea of it.
Do you remember, was it Appleseed, that Japanese comic book?
Because they're your people, aren't they? Yeah, I know Appleseed. Yeah.
Was it in Appleseed where they grew the robots?
I never read it.
Or was it Ghost in the Machine? I can't quite
was
remember.
Was it Appleseed that had? Oh, that was Dirty Pair, wasn't it? Just two big titty women.
Dirty Pair.
Yeah, there's a famous manga called Dirty Pair. Again, I've never read it. Is Appleseed the one with big robots and titty women?
Yes.
Is there titty women in it?
Yes. I was 12 when I read
why.
it, so that's probably why.
You dirty perv.
Yeah.
Sitting around in your house thinking, when's HBO gonna...
I don't know, HBO, we didn't have cable then. That was when, in fact, we had 4 channels then. It was 4 TV channels. It was before we had 5 channels and all this multiple stuff.
Yeah. For me, I quite like this kind of pushes towards the whole removal of humans from the process of manufacturing, building things, because we know that we're not very reliable.
Well, this could all be done in space, like we said on the last podcast. Big space factories. Oh, did we do it on the podcast? I'm sure I mentioned it. They reckon that eventually all the Earth will become a residential area, and all of the industry will be done in space, because obviously they have to worry about gravity and all that shit up there. So above you at night, the giant robot killer space bats are growing, and they only come out at night. How terrifying would that be?
Well, Elon Musk wants to move all the
It's my
Tesla
favourite.
guy.
It's my favourite deodorant, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Well, he wants to move all the heavy industry to space, where effectively turn the Earth into a utopia.
Yeah, that's the thing we're on about that. Yeah, it's
because if all the heavy industry's in space and you're mining asteroids for all your minerals, and you've got the limitless, until like 50 billion years or something, energy given off by the sun. What? And they're making everything that we need. What do we need people for?
I like the idea. Part of what happens when you mind your own business and then a fucking car factory lands on your mum's house.
Do satellites fly out of the sky all the time?
They're normally small and they burn up on re-entry.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes things fall into the Australian desert. They crash things into the sea all the time as well. But yeah,
Just imagine that. The
the
killer
thing
space
is,
bats do it.
In that example, if we've got so much stuff up there already moving about, then they will have other things up there to deal with it, which will automatically go, oh, this thing's completely lost propulsion, it's going to crash into the Earth. right, let's get a couple of other little robotic ships and they'll put it in either a flat trajectory where it'll burn up, or they'll just dump it into the sea.
Or they'll turn it on purpose so it drives in.
Or they'll take it back up and repair it.
What if you're like an evil genius and you've got access to all this stuff as well? You know, like in the 80s, old what's his face, Ronald Reagan, was going to have the Star Wars program. I remember looking at this thinking, this was so cool, because we have lasers in space.
It was, wasn't it?
He was going to have lasers in space, and it was going to like shoot down any Russian weapon.
Have you seen the laser bazooka?
The laser bazooka, what's that?
Some guy has developed a laser bazooka from the projector equipment and a few other things and battery packs and stuff.
How would it work? I mean, surely the energy...
to amplify the light, so it's...
Yeah, and it's extremely intense. He has to wear like a welder's type mask. Apparently, it would burn out your retinas because it's about 30 times the strength of the sun, this thing.
Jesus.
But I mean, what's its
Yeah.
range? They've got lasers that can take out planes and stuff, haven't they?
That's
But they
slightly
don't-
different. That's high intensity designed with the ability. It's got a lot of power to it. It's got a lot of energy, so it's destructive.
Yeah.
This is just intense light.
So it's just like a big, powerful torch.
Yeah, but so big and powerful that it can burn your retinas out. It's like
Give you,
staring
like,
at the
massive
sun,
arc eye or
but
something like
30
that.
times over.
But what can you do with it other than just light stuff up?
Play pranks on your friends.
It just looks pretty, it's pretty impressive. But
And if it can
it's
burn your retinas,
fairly
what about the
dangerous as a
people?
non-lethal weapon?
Well, what about the people around you? Would it burn their retinas too? I mean, how
Unless they're wearing,
How far away do you have to be?
I don't know. It wasn't in the article I read.
Because that could be a non-lethal weapon, couldn't it? If you just wanted to blind your opponent, not kill them.
Yeah, I don't think the Geneva Convention takes particularly.
I think there actually is some rules that are
Yeah.
to do with laser weapons already, isn't there? I like the idea of... I think it's a myth, but they were supposedly trying to develop this vibration gun, there's a certain vibration, the brown note they call it. I think it's a wives' tale.
What, it makes you shit yourself?
Yeah, if you get that and hit someone with it. And the idea was that they developed this device, put it on helicopters, fly over, and all the enemy soldiers would just crap themselves. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? I don't think it's true, though.
Be hilarious.
Well, the next thing we're going to do is a little bit different. It's a different feature, this is. I'm calling it Devil's Advocate. We're going to take a story which involves a conflict, and I'm going to let you two be the judge of it. And this is all based around that last week, CBS and Paramount came out with some guidelines for people who want to make Star Trek fan films.
Right.
For years, people have been making Star Trek fan films and their own little movies.
Yeah.
And there's never been a problem with it. But some guidelines have come out now. And they've come out because of, Star Trek Axanar, which was that fan film that we watched prelude
Was
to
that the
Axanar.
one that they banned, or they stopped?
They
or
tried
to... Yeah.
And then the people who made Axanar said, well, we've not made it yet, so how can you do us on copyright infringement when we've not technically infringed your copyright quite yet? But anyway, there's an article this week by a lady called Teresa Giacino, and she writes for the marysue.com, which is a kind of culture, geeky blog that's very, very popular. She doesn't just write for that, though. She does anthologies, and she also has written her own screenplays, and she's done a thing called Incredible Girl. I think it's Incredible Girl, which is about a dominatrix woman, and it's almost like the Orange is the New Black. It was going to be Orange is the New Black meets 50 Shades of Grey. And she's put a little trailer up for it, and it's her whipping a naked vicar.
Fair play.
And then she tickles him with a feather, and he's bollock naked. And it's like a teaser trailer. So she makes stuff as well. And
Okay.
she's got a Patreon. I quite enjoyed reading her article. Not saying I didn't necessarily agree with all of it, but if you want to support Teresa Giacino, you can go to her Patreon, help her make films about her whipping vicars. So the article she wrote was called CBS Paramount Issue Guidelines for Star Trek Fan Films because Axanar ruined it for everyone. And you are going to decide, you're going to be the jury in this. I will play the part of both the prosecution and the defence, literally being the devil's advocate, and you will give me your the final verdict on it. Now, it could be split, who knows? So In the court of Geek today, we're going to decide whether Alec Peters, who is the executive producer of Star Trek Axanar, really has ruined Star Trek fan films for everyone else. So the Right Honourable Judge Raoul
Yes.
and Judge Rick. So I'll give some background information then. 2014, Prelude to Axanar is released, and we watched that on the show. It's 20 minutes of awesome, very slick, fan-made goodness. It's a teaser film intended to help raise money for the creation of a film based around the legendary Battle of Axanar, which features Garth of Izar, Captain Kirk's childhood hero. So it's something that's talked about in the canon of Star Trek. The teaser film is created with several professional actors, such as Richard Hatch, who played Apollo in the original Battlestar Galactica, Tony Todd, who was the Candyman in the horror film, and Gary Graham, who played Soval in Enterprise.
You know what I think they're kicking off here? I think is because they've raised $1.3 million, right? The production values are going to be pretty high, and they have got well-known people, named actors, quality
Wait
actors.
and see what the prosecution and defence say, Your Honourable Judge.
Oh, sorry.
Raoul.
Right. Okay.
Gary Graham was in Enterprise, and the ex-film crew members of actual official Star Trek projects. They managed to raise, as you already said, $1.3 million through donations and crowdfunding for it. And after they'd done all this, CBS and Paramount issued a lawsuit against the Axanar project, seemingly threatening to end it. Alec Peters and the Axanar team then decided that they were going to fight the lawsuit, and they actually took a lawsuit out against CBS and Paramount. And it all seemed like it was going to go to a big court case. And it looked like Axanar was going to get squashed against such a big kind of institution like CBS and Paramount. Then J.J. Abrams, the director of the rebooted Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, and the producer of the new Star Trek Beyond, him and Justin Lin, who's the director of Star Trek Beyond, they got involved and said at some fan event, the lawsuit's going to go away. We actually like fans making stuff.
Yeah.
Consider it solved. And then it was like, hey, they're going to make Star Trek Axanar. However, last week, CBS and Paramount issued guidelines for Star Trek fan films. And the guidelines have not been accepted well by many people. And I'm going to tell you the guidelines. So I'll summarise them. So basically, any fan production now made, and what they're saying is, they say they're not rules, they're just guidelines for if you follow these, there's no way they're going to come after you legally. So what they say now is that fan production must be less than 15 minutes for a single self-contained story. If you're going to do a story that continues on, you can only do 2 parts to it, and it cannot add up to more than 30 minutes. They say that they cannot have the name Star Trek in the title, although you must have a Star Trek fan production in plain typeface below whatever title you choose. The content must be all original, and you are not allowed to use any clips or things from Star Trek. You cannot use actual professional actors or people who've worked on Star Trek ever on it. You have got to use only commercially available Star Trek uniforms and accessories and toys and props. You can't be making your own uniforms.
There's loads of them.
I know, I'm summarising it for you. And then the other main ones are that you cannot raise more than $50,000. If you do that, you've got to stop taking donations at that point. And the other ones are obvious stuff about you're not allowed to make any money from it. It's got to be free and distributed, and you can't sell DVDs with it on or whatever. So they are the main rules that they put out. Just to let you know as well, Axanar is not new in as much as other people have done continuations of the Star Trek series, going back years now. So anyway, again, the prosecution. So first of all, this is a quote from the website 1701news.com by a man called Michael Hinman, and he says the following: whether you like what CBS or Paramount is doing or not, the companies have every right to defend their copyrights. They have every right to give some leeway to whoever they want and no leeway to others. They own Star Trek, and they have every right to set the rules. Basically, he is very much against, Alec Peters. He thinks that he's, made the problem for himself. Then, going on to, we'll come back to you. I know you're primed to make a comment. So these are the main points of Teresa
However,
Giacchino's.
You're going to get disqualified because you keep jumping the gun.
Yes, I'll find you in contempt of court. You know what happens for
I'm
people?
the judge. I can't be in contempt. I'm the bloody judge.
In Geek Court you can do.
Okay.
You get 17 bollock raps if you interrupt one more time. It's a new thing I've just added in. Rick, you will be my official bollock executioner.
The thing is, he wouldn't be gentle.
He would mash your nuts.
He would. We're not doing that.
I'm going to get him a ladle to do it with as well. Can you imagine having to put your knob or your ball, on the corner of that table, and then Rick gets to swing it 17 times?
Yeah, we'll just carry on.
Anyway, so this is what Teresa Giacchino says. She says that the big problem she has, first of all, is that Alec Peters countersued Paramount and CBS, and that by doing that, he has forced their hand in to create these guidelines, because previous Star Trek fan productions have obeyed the rules that CBS and Paramount have set down, and have actually worked quite closely with them. So, for example, Star Trek The New Voyages, which has been running for ages, and that's a continuation of the original series, they have used script writers who used to work on Star Trek, and they even used scripts, and they happened to want to use a script that was going to be for the original series, even though they've used scripts in the past with no problems, but was never filmed. And as soon as CBS heard about this, they went, no, we're not going to let you. And so they just went, fair enough, we won't use it. But she says that by attacking them back, you have basically brought this all upon the fandom. Next point is that she takes exception to the fact that it's not against the norm for, if you're making a fan-made film, that you pay your crew a fee for doing it. Like, you're going to film for us from the money you've been given. Seems, though, that Alec Peters was actually giving himself a salary, which she takes exception to. She says it shouldn't be a salary, it should be like a one-off payment. It's not a job doing this. She also says as well that he does mention some of his blog posts about it, that they're redoing a soundstage, and he says, we'll be able to use this for many years into the future. And she again takes exception to that, because he's been given the money to make this Star Trek fan film, not to set himself up with a studio. And if he does set himself up with a studio and then uses it for other projects, are they going to be commercial projects? In which case, is that a little bit dodgy? And also she takes exception to the use of professional actors and former crew members from Star Trek. She says it's not a fan film at this point. And the fact they had 1.3 million also, she says, means it's not a fan film.
Well, if the money has come from the fans...
Hang on.
It is,
Where are your bollocks on the table?
Okay.
Get the ladle. Right, you're both on a yellow card.
Consider myself on, yeah.
You're on thin ice. So the defence then is this. Fan films and other fan-made materials are the lifeblood of Star Trek. If it was not for the fans, then Star Trek would have ended with the cancellation of the original series, but it didn't. They brought it back for the next generation. In between all of these films, when there's been no Star Trek on television, it's been the fans making these films that have kept people coming back. Paying crew who have worked on film films, as I've always said, is regular practice. And, as said already, using professionals in fan-made Star Trek productions is not a new concept. If you look at the new Voyages, or New Journeys, whatever it was called, they've had George Takei playing himself, Sulu, in it. They've had the chap who played Chekhov, I've forgotten his chuffing name now off the top of my head. Yeah, he's been in it. They've had numerous actual actors who were in the original series. And they also had Denise Crosby, who played Tasha Yar in The Next Generation. So they never took exception to them before. So it's a little bit unfair, seemingly. And so more of the defence is this. Alec Peters is not just trying to rip people off to get his own production studio. He is a legitimate superfan. I did a little bit of research into him. First of all, he's a trained attorney from the University of North Carolina School of Law. So him fighting back against them could well be because he thought that what they were doing was actually illegal. He may well know the law. He did actually argue some minor points about the fact that because CBS owned the TV rights, Paramount owned the film rights, that actually some of the smaller bits about who owns the ideas are actual real grey areas that can't be held legally liable for them. He started collecting Star Trek memorabilia in 2006. He runs a Star Trek prop, costume and auction blog, and even ran his own prop auctioning company till 2012. He is regarded massively highly in the world of Star Trek fans for props and stuff, regularly being called in to find out whether props that are on auction legitimately are what they say they are. He was appointed the official archivist for CBS's Star Trek collection in 2011, and in 2012 he cameoed in the New Voyages Star Trek series as the character Garth of Izar, and because he enjoyed that so much, he then decided he wanted to make the story of Exonar, and so in 2014 he created Prelude to Exonar. He's a legitimate fan. He's not trying to rip people off. He just wants to make something awesome. So, noble men of the jury, there are 2 points that I want you to answer for me. Number one, has Alec Peters and the Exonar team ruined it for other Trek fan film producers? And then secondly, are the CBS Paramount guidelines fair? Do you want to speak first, Justice Raoul?
Well, have you got an opinion?
I've got some points that we could go over.
We'll start with you then.
Okay, so you said that CBS and Paramount have been fairly helpful in the past with other productions.
Yeah,
and you said that those other productions have met most of the guidelines. Not all of them. In some cases,
well, the problem is the new guidelines would mean stuff like Star Trek, the New Voyages. I don't know if they retrospectively it will take account of them, but they've used professional actors and scriptwriters.
This is what I was going to say. It sounds like CBS and Paramount have both had an idea of what they deem as acceptable, and some things have come along which is outside of that, and they've looked at it and they've gone, on the balance of things, they're meeting all the criteria, we'll give them some leeway. I think their exception is that this is going a lot out of the scope of what all the other productions have met in the past and what they consider as acceptable, or what they're willing to make exception for. So that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they've had an idea, this is like the criteria which we think's fair. Everything else has come along, some things have come along and they're like, oh, they're using a professional actor, but you can tell it's a Star Trek fan production, it's not got budget, it's just somebody showing up as a cameo and it'll be great for the fans when they see it. This one, on the other hand, is not one person turning up in one show as a cameo, but like multiple well-known faces in a single production with a lot of money behind it, to the point that it could be seen wider than the general fan fiction audience.
Yeah.
And it could even be mistaken as being an official, almost sanctioned production, if the quality of the production is that high.
It is pretty high as well, yes. Good point.
Then, my counterpoint would be, if they're not planning on making any money from it, then why shouldn't they be able to put it out as a fan production, maybe gain a wider audience, which might draw more people into the other fan productions that have been made, as long as it's not somebody trying to make a regular thing out of it that they try to monetize.
Thing is, you can still make
still fan production,
but you can still make money off a non-profit thing. Whether not necessarily make money in the sense that
I think that's what some people have taken exception to.
Yeah, but not necessarily make money in the sense of I've made a massive profit, because obviously you're a non-profit, but you obviously your time, you're obviously using your time, which has a value, and likewise there are certain things that you will you will benefit from downstream, which might not necessarily be hard cash directly associated with the film, but it might well be that you get paid to come to an event to talk about your fan film or something. So it is a bit of a grey area in that respect, but ultimately CBS and Paramount own it, so they're free to do what the hell they want with it. They're free to lock people down, they're free to make concessions, they're free to do whatever they like. So perhaps what rather than was the scope of this production, the fact that it was so big and it had all the professionals and yeah, much like what Rick said. It's very difficult for them to... I mean, these are still guidelines. So I dare say that because they're still guidelines, that still gives them leeway, still gives them the ability to offer concessions and still gives them opportunity to bend. They've not said these are the rules. And plus as well, they can't really say their rules, because if they actually turn around and say that these are hard and fast rules, it effectively opens up the door for millions more fan films. Providing they obey the rules, they'll be scot-free, and they might not want that. You know?
One of the things is that the New Voyages long-running series that's been going on, and there's another one called Star Trek Continues. They've been made up to this point, and they're still making them now. In some of those cases, they would be breaching these rules now. So, do you think that by doing Axanar, that Alec Peters and his team, have they actually ruined it for anyone else? Or really, is it just they put that out there to kind of cover themselves so they can shut people down who go too far in the future? And will it...
Yeah, well, I mean, these guidelines probably are in direct response to what happened with Axanar, because somebody turned around to try and sue them, and they got bad PR, and J.J. Abrams stepped in and said, "Oh, it'll go away," and all this kind of stuff.
They still are getting bad PR. I looked at a message today saying, "I'm not going to watch the new film. Screw you. I'm not going to watch it."
Exactly. And loads of people have been attacking them, but at the end of the day, CBS and Paramount have lots of money, lots of jobs. There's a wider thing here resting on this, and while they probably overreacted initially to Axanar, they do have a right and a duty and a responsibility to protect their IP, because ultimately that IP, that intellectual property, if they set precedents and they basically allow people to do what the hell they like with it, then there is no value for them. They have no value for it, and it could potentially open the floodgates for Sony to come along and say, "I'm going to make a Star Trek film." Because there's a precedent here.
So, in light of that, then, would you both agree then that CBS and Paramount are not unfair putting these guidelines out?
I guess the proof is in the pudding of their enforcement. If they're saying they're just guidelines, new Star Trek. What's it called?
There's Star Trek Continues and the New Voyages.
New Voyages. So the next one of that comes out and it slightly breaches the guidelines, and they go, "Well, it's no worse than you did before. We're happy with it. It's allowable. We keep sticking to most of the guidelines." I don't think it's going to ruin it, because I don't think it's going to change if most of all the other productions have met this criteria anyway. I don't think it's going to change anything for them. It's them putting their foot down and saying, right, everything else was fine, but we don't think that this kind of production is fine. Which they've got every right to do. I think maybe... I don't know the background to it, as... Did they approach Alec Peters?
They sent him. I think they must have sent him like a copyright and a desist. I'm going to guess it would be a desist doing what you're doing type thing.
I mean, what kind of outreach was there to him before they?
They've been to court together as well.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, he worked for CBS as their archivist, so he must have, and he sold a lot of the, he auctioned off a lot of the personal collections of people who'd worked for CBS and on Star Trek. So he knew people. I don't know.
Yeah, it just depends on what the outreach was before they eventually went to court. I guess you could kind of understand it if they're kind of saying, look, we don't think this meets our criteria, and he's just gone, yeah, but it's just a fan film production, I'm going to do it anyway, and he didn't have any kind of flexibility.
I'm going to guess that they probably went down the legal route and he just got a message, probably reasonably legally threatening.
And you can kind of understand that if he thinks, well, they're just trying to trample all over this thing that I'm trying to do for the fans, and I'm a massive fan myself, and I'm trying to do something for everybody in the community. Why on earth are they kind of trying to stamp on this idea rather than...
Right, I want the final verdict on the big question. Alec Peters, does he deserve to go to the special geek jail that I've set up for someone who willfully ruins things for the other fans?
What about a fine or a slap on the wrists?
do you think he has ruined it for other people?
I would say that he has made CBS and Paramount's position untenable. They've had to go down this route but to say he's ruined it, probably not, because CBS and Paramount still have the flexibility to say, go on then, So it's whether or not people will. You see, with me, with guidelines, with rules, I kind of interpret them how I want, and just
It's been noted.
And just ask for forgiveness later. And usually it works. I've only ever been really in real trouble once. So
Was that when I told your girlfriend you'd been to McDonald's?
I managed to get away with that. So So I don't know. It'd be probably a bit harsh to say he's ruined it for everybody else, but at the same time, he has forced CBS and Paramount's hand. So
do we send him to geek jail? I need an answer. Be tough on this one.
Probably horsewhipping.
Jesus Christ! Geek jail's not an actual jail. It's just like shame on you if you're.
Okay, well then, yeah. He'd go to geek jail because he's kind of forced their hand a bit. Yeah.
Did he do it for? But I'll come to you, Rick. Would you send him to geek jail?
No.
Why? Give me your actual reasonable
fucking
non-horse whipping. Fucking horse whip him.
Because the fans have been happy to put the money up in the first place to see a good quality production. Maybe there's some question,
but the question is
on him taking money as like a salary type side of things. That the fans have probably not signed up for that.
But the charge was not has he ruined it for those fans. The charge is has he buggered things up for anyone else that wants to make a Star Trek film.
No, I don't think so. I think everything that on the smaller scale will continue as it always has, because I think CBS and Paramount have just put this out to basically say, if you're coming with $500,000 budget, we're not going to look lightly on that. If you're coming with $100,000 budget, we'll maybe look the other way, kind of thing. But if you're coming with like a million dollar budget, we're obviously going to take note and step in and say, we don't think this is proper fan fiction anymore. This is more like a commercial.
Would you still have him horsewhipped?
I wouldn't have him horsewhipped. I think Rick has been eloquent there, and I would agree with him.
You should never be in a position of judging anyone.
Well, there,
you've got to have been judged first.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think. I think the reason I'd wanted to do it like this was because when I read the article from Teresa Justino, I was at the T in by mistake, it almost felt like she was saying that he's a bad dude, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think I think he actually means really well, and he wanted to make the best thing possible, and that inadvertently he opened up this Pandora's box of because it got too big. And I hope they do make it because it looks fucking ace. Right, we're going to move on to Ultimo Geek then. So you've been judging others. Now it's my time to judge you and your geeky knowledge.
Yeah.
So today's quiz is called Who Said That? Well, I will give you some quotes from famous sci-fi films or productions, and you need to tell me who said it. So question 1. You are what you do. A man is defined by his actions, not his memories. Is that from Qui-Gon Jinn, Total Recall, Daredevil, or Memento? Which of the I've made it a bit difficult with some of them are film names and the other ones are characters. Does it feature in Star Wars, Total Recall, Daredevil, or Memento? You are what you do, Raoul.
I've not actually seen Memento.
A man is defined by his actions, not his memories. So, show me what you think it is.
I'm going to go with...
And Raoul, you're correct. It was Quarto from Total Recall.
Yeah.
Look how... Yeah, that's what it was. 2. In my experience, there is no such thing as luck. Is that from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? Is it 2, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? 3, Independence Day? Or 4, Star Wars? Got your answer. And Raoul, you're correct again. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as luck. You're 2-0 at the moment. Smug mode will be being engaged very soon. Klar tu brada nikto. Is that from 1, Mork and Mindy, 2, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 3, Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, or 4, 2001 A Space Odyssey? Klar tu brada nikto.
I haven't got a clue, but I'm going to guess.
Is that your answer you're giving me at the moment?
Yeah.
And
Oh, wait a minute. What's that? Sorry.
Oh, you should have kept it the first time. It's from The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Not.
Ah.
There are, a few
It's the
things
famous...
on here. Each one I'm getting 50-50 of things that I've seen and not seen.
No, just go with your first thoughts. It's still winning 2-0. The next one is, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire on the shoulder of Orion. I watch sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. Is that from Blade Runner, Beyond the Planet of the Apes, John Carter, or Battle Beyond the Stars? Got your answer? What do you think? You've both gone for the same one. It was from Blade Runner.
Oh.
Rutger Hauer says that to Deckard.
Yeah.
Get away from there, you bitch! Is that from Carrie, Species, Diabolical, Aliens, or Last Time Rob Was in a Nightclub with a Girl? So you think it's from... And you're both correct, it's from Aliens, yes, when Ripley goes after the alien queen in a big mover suit thing. What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamenting of their women. Is that 1, Suburban Commando, Hulk Hogan's best film in my mind, 2, Predator, 3, Conan the Barbarian, or 4, Red Sonja? Got your answer? And it's Conan the Barbarian.
I was going to go for that, but I couldn't remember.
Still winning. I think if you get this one right, there's no way he can catch you. So, what do you mean? An African or a European swallow? Is that from Time Bandits, Monty Python's The Holy Grail, The Life of Brian, or The Jabberwock? Which of those films is it from? What do you mean, an African or a European swallow? I've got your answer. Come on, this is your only chance. And you're both wrong. It's Monty Python's The Holy Grail.
Oh. That's 2 in a row now.
I think he can draw if he gets the next 2 right.
Okay.
As long as
You get them all wrong. I've spent this wrong on. My whole life is a dark room. One big dark room. Is it Donnie Darko, Dark City, The Truman Show, or Beetlejuice? So my whole life is a dark room, one big dark room. So I've got your answer. And Rick, you're correct. It's from Beetlejuice.
Excellent. This is all hints on the next one. We might draw or... So I got 3, you've got...
He has got...
1, 2.
No, he's got 2, yeah. So if he gets this one right and then the last one, in theory, he could still steal it.
Yeah.
I love you, but we've only got 14 hours to save the Earth. Is that from The Man Who Fell to Earth, Flash Gordon, Star Trek The Voyage Home, or The Rocketeer? And you're both correct, it's from Flash Gordon.
Oh! This is it then.
I've come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. Is that from Them, It Came from Mars, They Live, or Tremors?
So I'm on 4, Rick's on 3. So this could decide it.
It'll be a draw
Wow.
or you win. So I've come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of gum. Is it Them, It Came from Mars, They Live, or Tremors? All down to the wire. How are you doing at home, ladies and gents? I've got your answer. And Rob, you've got it right, and you've won it.
Oh.
It's They Live, Roddy Piper's seminal film.
I've only seen one of those.
I was really not quite sure. I thought I was going to pick what I was, so because I couldn't quite. It was one or yeah. I was lucky.
That was a close. But no, before we talk about our Comic-Con of the week, our comic of the week this week. I'm not showing it to you yet, Raoul, but you don't need to. You've already seen it.
I have. Is this Mole?
Mole Perkins in America. Now, this came out in 2009, so it's not a new one, listeners. But because I'm such a kind of nepotistic arsehole, and because we're going to be at this Yorkshire Geek Fest, I'm taking a chum of mine who, before I ever knew him, he was a bit of a hero, because he was, his name's Dave Gaskell, and he was a political cartoonist, the best political cartoonist in my mind in Britain, and he produced this graphic novel, which not really got much attention in the UK, but in Australia won a Stanley Award, which is their Oscars of comic books.
Yeah.
And it's a really good book as well. Now, Dave Gaskell, as I said, does political cartoons. So within this story of the main character, Mole Perkins, who lives in Georgian London, she is sent on a mission to bring back the Prince Regent, who's been kidnapped, shanghaied. And so this follows those adventures. And it's quite interesting because he features caricatures of celebrities, like Stephen Fry's in it. You've got Basil Fawlty's in it as well.
Richard Branson.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton. And lots of other ones like that in it. So it's a really interesting book. Tell us, do you like it?
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased because I like Dave.
He's a good bloke, isn't he?
He's a really good bloke. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of illustration, it is one of up there with one of the best books in the last 10 years.
What's the other book?
What, the other book?
Yeah.
Yours.
Well done. Yeah.
I knew there was going with that.
Can put the soup label back.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's got a quality to it, and the story's just fun. It's just good. So
it's a romp, isn't it?
It is a romp
in every
yeah.
sense of the word. It's a romp.
Yeah, a romp through Georgian London.
But it's also a little bit, because my book's a little bit steampunky, and there's some elements of steampunkiness in it, like the flying balloon ship.
Yes.
That he goes on. What did you think to it, Rick?
I had a quick flick through it, and I was quite getting into it. So I'd.
He's got a good sense of humour, hasn't he, Dave?
Yeah.
And the thing is, if we're at the Comic-Con, we sell loads of these. There is Mole Perkins in Australia, which he was working on, but abandoned because of other commitments. But if we can prove this works.
See, I always feel a little bit. Obviously, I like Dave. When I was doing my A levels, my art A level, we had to choose an artist who we look at and you write about. And I chose, before I knew him, Dave Gaskell. And then years later, I bumped into some woman who I heard her second name was Gaskell, and because I'm a dick, I was like, "You're not related to the Dave Gaskell,
are you?"
And she went, "Yeah, he's my husband." And I was like, "What, the political cartoonist dude?" She went, "Yeah." What are the odds of that happening? So yeah, he's a good bloke, and he deserves far more attention for this book. So even though it did come out quite a while ago, it's my comic of the week. And is it on Amazon, Rob?
It is as a digital download, I believe. But I mean, if you want a physical copy, you can go to davegaskill.com, all one word, and just email Dave.
And that's a nice website, isn't it?
Yes.
Well designed, put together.
Yeah.
Yeah. You put it together, didn't you?
Oh, years ago, yeah. I need to probably do some work on it, but... Oh,
now he's going to get famous off the back of the podcast. Yeah, anyway, so the final thing I want to talk about is our comic festival of the week. And this one's going to be on Friday the 15th to Sunday the 17th of July, so pretty close to now. And it's the Shrewsbury International Comic Art Festival, but it looks brilliant. It's in just a comic art festival. Is it, Raoul?
No, it is a music and film and
Comedy festival.
Is it a
film festival as well?
And don't they have? I can't remember which on what days they have what, but don't they have like a different thing each night? Music one night.
Yeah, I think it's music the first night. It's Friday, Sunday, isn't it? So it might be that Saturday is music and then Sunday's comedy. Or maybe Friday. You can look on their website anyway. Just look up Shrewsbury International Comic Art. Got John Wagner there, worked on it in 2000 AD, Judge Dredd and stuff like that. Andy Diggle, who worked on Hellblazer and lots of other stuff. So it's the best of all worlds. I would quite like to go to this if I could get official sanction from my missus.
Doesn't that clash with the other comic thing?
Oh shit! It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why am I even promoting it? this
Do not go to this.
It clashes
There's
with
a much better one.
It clashes with you and your the comic festival that you're flogging your book at.
It's shit, this one, isn't it?
Terrible.
So the new feature is things not to go to. Oh, bollocks. That's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, I just looked at the date thinking, hang on a minute, because it's the 16th, isn't it?
What you need to do is get that guy who's got the chem computer to clone you and send one to the other events.
Grow you like a robotic.
Yeah.
Or just sell drones and blow it up on the Saturday. So anyway,
It does look very good.
it does. On the Friday and the Sunday, Saturday, I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole.
I wouldn't bother on Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, so it's at the same time as Yorkshire Geek Fest. Oh, that's a shitter, innit?
Only
You've
you
just
knew
like
somebody with a
snookered you.
helicopter.
Yeah, we could get a boat. Oh, well, that is bad. Yorkshire Geek Fest is only one day.
Yes,
So
on the 16th.
how does it take to go from Shrewsbury to...
Well,
Barnsley.
essentially the side of Shrewsbury's west, Yorkshire's east. I reckon there's an hour in it.
Get them both. Yeah, stop being such a tight shit. Go to them both. Oh, I really should think a bit more when I'm choosing things that run at odds, that are promoting something, so they go to this and they don't fucking come and buy my comic. Twats. It does look good though, all things said. Just don't go to it. Not on the Saturday. So, that's shocking revelation. So, thanks for coming along today, Rick. It's, as always, been a blast to have you.
You're welcome.
Got a big week ahead of you?
I've got the week off. It's a holiday week.
You lucky
I get to travel
bastard.
around.
What about you, Rel? Big week ahead?
I've got to go to London tomorrow, and I've just got loads to do, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've got to be in Glasgow, Cardiff, London, Birmingham.
Jesus Christ.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I hope you both have a good week, and I hope you listeners have a good week too. It's good to be back in it, back on top.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the confidence behind.
Yeah, I've got to walk home now. Can I have a lift? Please.
Oh, you twat. Yes, I suppose so. Anyway, have a nice evening, everybody, or whenever you listen to it. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was ghastly.